Hey buddy, we're going to do another little night drive conversation. I've been in a very meditative state most of the day, and it stemmed from a conversation that I had earlier in the day today. And it was actually a conversation in the community that started from this YouTube channel. It's called the Conscious Men Community, and there was a guy in there, and he asked me some questions about the healing process when it comes to grief and my own experience of going through that after my father's suicide. I talk about the story of that in another video if you're curious about that. And it's wild because I have found that the most difficult and most tragic things that we go through in life, it's hard to see at first, but oftentimes there are hidden gifts and little hidden treasures in those hardships. Sometimes we don't see it until we look back years later, maybe after some of the healing process. Hindsight is always 20/20, and I have had a lot of time to heal and look back at that whole experience. And at this point in my life, I've concluded with the utmost conviction that life really does happen for us and not to us. It's very easy to feel like a victim when your world is seemingly falling apart. It could be a breakup, the loss of a loved one through tragedy, maybe a business that you've built and worked really hard for is going under. But what usually happens in those circumstances is it's shaking up, it's disrupting our usual routine, our comfort zone, and it snaps us out of whatever state we might be in. There are a lot of things, a lot of journeys and paths that I took that I never would have taken if it wasn't for the immense amount of internal pain and disruption I felt by going through those things I did. And I ran away from a lot of those sensations for a very long time. It took me a solid 20 years to heal. And that's why I could talk about my father's death and all these tragic things, because I've healed from it. And I wish I did it a lot sooner. The advice that I would give someone who's going through all of that is don't avoid the pain and those uncomfortable internal sensations that you feel of loss or grief or whatever it is that you might be going through. It could even be the loss of an ideal or the loss of an outcome, and it can be very painful. And the only way to heal from that stuff really is to feel it. You have to feel it to heal it. Another generic cliche saying, but there's so much truth in that. I think men specifically tend to struggle with sitting with that pain. And it's very strange to be able to look back on my life and say something to the degree of, I'm actually grateful. I have a sense of gratitude for the things that I went through. I wouldn't have the empathy, I wouldn't have the deep well of spirituality and knowledge and wisdom if I hadn't gone through the things that I've been through. And oftentimes those tragedies and things that we go through it's the initiation, it's the call to adventure that is often described in the hero's journey. Any story, any epic fable that you hear about, you could even use Star Wars as an example. You know, you look at Luke Skywalker, he's just this ordinary guy doing these mundane chores every single day. And then what happens? Tragedy knocks on his door. You know, he's pulled into this world. His aunt and uncle, the people who raised him, are just like murdered out of nowhere. And this wise mentor finds him, Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'm kind of showing my inner nerd right now, but that's okay. And he's pulled into this adventure. And he ultimately ends up impacting the entire galaxy. So whatever it is that you might be going through, I want to say, you don't know yet the reason for it. You don't know the hidden gifts and the hidden treasures that are in that hardship that you might not see until years down the road after you've done some healing. And don't delay the healing process. Don't run from it. Don't immerse yourself in porn and video games and mindless pleasures and vices that keep you from getting on the other side of that healing process, because time does not heal all wounds. It really doesn't. There has to be intentionality. It can get buried, the wounds can get buried, and you can start to ignore them, but then they manifest in other ways. It might not manifest anymore in the feeling of grief or sadness, but it might manifest in like addiction or something. An interesting thing is, once I intentionally got to the point of going through the healing process, facing things, it was a fucking journey, man. I even dove into mushrooms and psychedelics and things like that with intentionality to try to uncover subconscious things that needed to heal, but that's not for everybody. But once I got on the other side of that journey and I finally healed and all those dots started to connect, I shit you not, a week later I started this YouTube channel. And it's almost like I just needed to get to that place where I was finally ready to communicate with the outside world and share my story and the things that I've been through. And sharing these things is no longer coming from a place of, oh, I just need to get this out so I feel better. It's coming from a place of wanting to reach you and other people who are going through darkness, going through a dark night of the soul. There's no hope. And before I fully immersed myself in the healing journey, I was buried in nihilism, ultimately led to atheism. And I was on the cusp of that type of resentment and bitterness where you almost want to make other people suffer. And that's where the villain mentality comes in. And I'm telling you right now, if you're going through something awful or tragic, that you have the strength to get through it. And if you're not, I could almost guarantee that someday tragedy, heartbreak, grief is going to come knocking at your door, and it's going to shake up your entire world. And I want you to remember this video when you go through that. And I want you to remember these words, that you can rise above it. You can choose to not give into bitterness or nihilism or resentment. Take the time, take a season to sit with it and heal. Because that very hardship could be the thing that is leading you to your highest purpose. There's no way to have a deep understanding of the human condition until you go through the depths of darkness. And once you understand it and you get on the other side of it and you heal, then you can impact other people on a very deep level. Because people have really good bullshit detectors. And if you haven't gone through hell and back, it's very difficult to impact other people. Because what the fuck do you know? You know? There's still a degree of naivety that you might have. And you know, there's power in conversations like this, especially amongst men, where another man is looking you in the eye and telling you to just face it and to feel all these things and get on the other side of it. In the conscious men community, these are the kinds of things that we talk about. We still talk about superficial things like how to interact with women, fitness, because those surface level things often lead to deeper things. And that, or at least that's how it was for me. It started out with getting into fitness because I wanted to look good, I wanted to feel confident, and then learning how to cold approach because I wanted girls. But the inner journey that happened as a result, it cultivated courage, it cultivated learning how to do hard things. And then that superficial self-improvement led to self-improvement like psychology and spirituality. Having a community of men is really crucial, and I did not have that really growing up. And I think a lot of men, especially in this day and age, this digital age, we don't have that. So if that's something you're looking for, I want you to click the link in the description. Watch the welcome video. We do Zoom calls every week. We talk about these types of topics. And I think it could aid you in whatever process of the journey that you might be in. All that being said, if it feels like your world's being turned upside down in any capacity, just hold on, face it, know that life is happening for you, not to you, and that could be the very thing that's initiating you towards your purpose, towards your hero's journey. Oftentimes God or source, the universe, whatever you want to call it, knows that we're going to go through tragedy. And it's placed that in our path to shake us up, to disrupt our comfort zone. Every hero you can think of, if they didn't go through hardships and difficulty, they would not cultivate the strength to make a difference in the world. And I believe that you have something inside of you. If you're drawn to this kind of content, you found your way to this video, it's for a fucking reason. You have something in you. You have some kind of gift, some kind of higher purpose that the world needs. And you're faced with a choice. And whenever tragedy or darkness hits you, it's calling out to you to either take action or run away from it. And it never goes away. And it becomes increasingly clear the more healing that you do. So, if you like these kinds of night drive conversations, I created a playlist with all the car chat videos. So at the end of this, you'll see that pop up. You can click on it, go down the rabbit trail, and we can just hang out for a little bit and talk about some stuff. Most men are not aware of the inner power that they possess. They're either diminished by people in their life or they diminish themselves. And I went through a lot of self-loathing and self-blame when I was healing from my father's suicide. I had to forgive my father, and I also had to forgive myself because I blamed myself for a while. I thought that if I would have seen the signs, been more observant, then maybe I could have talked to him or said something to have saved him from his fate. I'm hoping that this video gives you the courage to look within, to face whatever it is that's going on inside of you. And if life is good right now, if you're in the comfort zone and everything is just routine, then I want you to remember this video when you go through hardships, because it's inevitable. Someone in your life is going to die. Someone's going to break your heart. Someone's going to betray you. And your world will turn upside down at some point. And I don't wish that on anybody. But at this point, I recognize it for what it is. Oftentimes, it's a call. So heed the call, face the darkness, slay the dragons, and become who you're meant to be. And that's all I got for you tonight. You are loved. You matter. And you've barely scratched the surface of what you're capable of. I'll talk to you soon.